Okay, 50-50 on whether I'll upload this, just because as I've said, I don't like arguing with people, and this is certainly a topic that people like to argue about, but I would like to give my thoughts on genetics, and I wouldn't like to come off as the guy with good genetics who goes and tells you guys that it doesn't matter, but it matters less than I think many of you have been told. First of all, you don't know your genetics until you've genuinely gotten after it for quite a while. And that doesn't mean you've been in the gym for quite a while, because we all know someone who's been in the gym for like 10 years and sucks. But there's a very big difference between genuinely really getting after it and trying to get stronger block to block, week to week, and just going to the gym. I'm sure we all know the differences. We know people who do one or the other. And there's, I believe, studies that indicate that your start point isn't necessarily correlated with your end point. That has a lot more to do with your prior exercise history and what you've been eating than it does your genetic potential, right? So just because you came in and started with a 1-plate bench and your friend started with 95 doesn't mean you have better genetics than your friend. That's really not what that's probably telling you. It probably has just to do with you maybe did some push-ups before going to the gym and your friend did not, right? So, the first thing is you don't know what your genetics are, so don't hold yourself back until you know what they are. And really the only way to know is to really get after it. That being said, genetics are very real, and you're going to be looking at a couple of core differences, right? Like some people just have indisputably better genetics in regards to hypertrophy. I'm sure we've all met someone who's doing the same training as us and has seen far more growth from the same general habits. That in itself is very much so an advantage, right? Another one might just be being a larger person. If you're not a Wilks guy and you're just trying to lift as much weight as possible, if your friend's a larger person than you, they're gonna have an easier time lifting more weights. It's part of the reason my brother is so damn good, is because he is just a very large person, right? And if you don't factor in weight classes, as many people don't when they're watching Instagram videos, you're gonna be like, damn, that guy's got insane genetics. But for his class, his Wilks isn't insane. He's just a large person, and we're not used to scaling our numbers to large people. We're used to comparing average people to average people, right? So that's certainly a component of genetics, right? So you got the absolute size of the person, right? You have the ease at which they hypertrophy, right? Because a bigger muscle has the potential to be a stronger muscle. Some people are more neurologically efficient, right? They're just going to be a more fast twitch dominant person. Absolutely a real thing, right? And one thing I really like, especially when making programming considerations for someone's genetics, is what Josh Bryant has talked about, which is being an easy gainer or a hard gainer, right? And that sounds like, some bullshit about people who don't understand calorie balance, right? But that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about whether someone's the amount of stimulus you need to apply to see adaptation, right? So, an easy gainer, right? Someone with traditionally good genetics, they can hit like 2 hard sets a week and see great adaptation, right? And in which case, if I'm programming for them, I'm going to give them only that 2. I'm only going to give them the amount of stimulus they need to see the rate of growth that we would like to see, right? Whereas some people, you need to hit them with a lot harder, more frequent, more stimulus to see adaptation, right? So here's the thing that I really just want to get through to people. I'm sure someone will argue with me, and that's fine. I'm just not going to reply. But if you're a young guy and you've been told you either have the genetics for this or you don't, no, fuck off. That's the stupidest shit I've ever heard. Listen to me. Powerlifting and strength training in general is a very unique hobby, because being naturally gifted only gets you so far. It's really a contest of who has been getting after it for the longest, right? Show me a person who has been getting after it and just doing their earnest best to get stronger and doing the habits that are necessary for that for 10 years that isn't a strong motherfucker, right? That guy who's been doing it for 10 years is going to be stronger than the genetically gifted guy that's been doing it for 2. Almost universally, right? And this is why, if you're down in the dumps about your genetics, you need to fuck off, right? Because you can be stronger than 99% of people that train just by doing it longer than them. The fact of the matter is, most people burn out within 5 years of doing this. Just by being the guy who didn't burn out in 5 years, you can be stronger than the vast majority of people, right? Maybe you will never hold a world record. If you don't have good genetics, you will never hold a world record. But that doesn't mean you can be an elite lifter just by having done this for a long time. Obviously, when I say elite, that's a little bit different than what other people like. Can you be contending to get a world record? Probably not. Can you be the strongest dude you've ever seen? Probably. I really think that people hold themselves back because they don't understand that the real merit to how strong someone gets is how long they're willing to graft, right? Because I've been training for 7 years, right? I probably have very good genetics, but you know, even with good genetics at 3 years, I was not outstandingly strong, and there were people with worse genetics than me significantly stronger simply because they had the balls to keep doing it for a long time. And that's why having a sustainable training approach, having a sustainable mindset is what's going to make you the strongest, right? Because burning yourself out, if you stop lifting, you're not going to be strong, right? So I don't know. This is just to say, you need to not be so down in the dumps about your genetics, because even if you have to apply a fuck ton of stimulus, like when I'm coaching Max and myself, I have to apply more stimulus for myself to see adaptation than I do Max. That's annoying. I have to do twice as many fucking sets to see growth as Max, but I'll just do twice as many and I'll match his rate of progress, right? You can't always do that. Certainly you guys are gonna be, oh, you guys have the same genetics. Well, obviously that's not true. I'm way shorter than him, right? So like there are considerations, but that being said, I really think that like, yeah, maybe you are a hard gainer, right? You really need to hit yourself with some difficult stimulus to growth. Well, okay, well just hit yourself with that difficult stimulus, right? People talk about genetic limits. At what body weight? You don't even mention that, right? It's like, oh, my natural limit. At your current body weight, just gain some fucking weight. I don't understand, like, what is the genetic limit? At your current body weight? Why would you limit yourself to your current body weight? If you can accrue more lean tissue and look acceptable another weight class up, go up a weight class. Wow, you just thrashed through your genetic limit. I don't understand when people are like, oh, this total can't be done naturally. If you get fat as fuck, yes, it can. I don't understand what people are talking about. So if you're willing, if strength is your #1 priority and you're willing to get fucking obese, that genetic potential someone told you has no bearing because they're assuming you're going to stay 200 pounds. I don't know. I think you just like really just need to think of this as a time game more so than a genetics game. You know, it's not like basketball. Like you can, if you're 5'2" in basketball, right, and you get after it for 15 years, you're not going to make the league. And some dude who sucks, who's 7'5", might make the league, right? This isn't the same. You're going to be better than the guy who's been doing it for 2 years if you've been doing it for 15. That's my rant.